It all begins when a man named Andrew walks through the streets of New York with his daughter, Charlie. Suddenly, he realizes that some men are following him. They are agents of an organization called The Shop. Quickly, Andrew hides among the crowd and manages to jump into a taxi to escape. But when the men get closer, the taxi driver freezes in fear, so Andrew uses his mental powers to force him to drive faster toward the airport. Years earlier, Andrew had been part of a government experiment. He and several other young people were injected with a substance created by Dr. Wanless. They were told it was harmless and that, after 2 days, they could go home with a generous payment. That day, Andrew met a girl named Vicky and they fell in love instantly. But shortly after receiving the injection, everything began to spiral out of control. The young volunteers started having hallucinations, and Vicky discovered she could read Andrew's mind just by looking at him. The others were thrashing desperately on their beds, while the doctors had no idea what to do. In the present, Andrew keeps running with Charlie. They have no money, so he steals some coins from a phone booth to continue their escape. As they walk through the airport, Charlie notices a pregnant woman crying. The woman is arguing with a man who refuses to take responsibility for the baby or marry her. Andrew tries to stay calm, but every time he uses his powers, his head hurts and his nose bleeds. That is why he only uses them when absolutely necessary. While he picks up the coins, Charlie gets upset when she sees how the man treats the woman, and without meaning to, she causes the man's boots to burst into flames. The man screams and runs into the restroom to put out the fire with water from the toilet. Andrew realizes what his daughter has done and rushes her out of the airport before anyone suspects anything. Charlie feels guilty for losing control, but her father comforts her. He tells her she is improving because before, every time she used her powers, she caused a disaster. Minutes later, Charlie says she feels that the bad men are nearby, so Andrew decides to hide with her in the grass next to a highway. But when Charlie jumps onto his lap, they both roll over, and Andrew passes out just before a truck is about to run them over. Luckily, Charlie manages to wake him up in time, and the two of them jump to the side of the road. After the scare, Andrew picks up his daughter and walks until he finds a small hotel where they can sleep. While Charlie rests, he remembers the happy times when the three of them were still together: Vicky, Charlie, and himself. Back then, he tried to teach his daughter how to control her fire. But whenever she got angry, she would lose control. Once, she even set her mother's oven mitts on fire. Everything changed weeks later. One day, Andrew returned home and could not find his wife or his daughter. He looked everywhere until he found traces of blood in the laundry room and Vicky's body hidden inside the closet. Terrified and full of rage, Andrew ran out to search for his daughter. When the agents from the shop tried to take her, he used his powers to stop them and blind them, avenging his wife's death. The next morning at the shop's headquarters, Captain Hollister receives a visit from John and Dr. Wanless. According to the doctor, Andrew and his daughter Charlie are a huge threat to the country and must be eliminated as soon as possible. Out of the 10 young volunteers who took part in the experiment, 8 die. So Hollister decides to erase all evidence of the project and eliminate Andrew's family. But Andrew managed to escape with his daughter, and Wanless explains that Charlie's powers are growing stronger every day. He says that, with time, they could become so powerful that no one would be able to stop her. That is why, according to him, the best option is to capture her now before she becomes invincible. He even mentions that if her power keeps increasing, she might one day be able to destroy the entire planet. When Hollister hears that, he does not think about stopping Charlie, but about using her. He comes up with the idea of creating human weapons to defend the country and asks if it is possible to make more children with powers like Charlie's, but Wanless refuses immediately. He says he will never experiment on people again, and he leaves in anger. Meanwhile, Andrew and Charlie manage to get breakfast and then find a truck driver who gives them a ride to a nearby town where Andrew's father used to live. But the agents from the shop spot them from a distance and alert the rest of the team, reporting the license plate of the truck they are traveling in. On the road, the truck driver, a kind man named Irv, invites them to his home for a meal. Andrew accepts, and a few hours later they arrive at the farm where Irv lives with his wife, Norma. She greets them with a warm smile and offers them hot food. After lunch, Irv asks his wife to play with Charlie outside while he speaks with Andrew alone because he suspects something strange is going on. Andrew decides to tell him the truth. He is running from the government because they want to use his daughter for experiments. Meanwhile, Charlie finishes feeding the chickens and runs back to find her father. Frightened, she tells him that the bad men are very close. At that moment, she grows nervous and the temperature in the room rises. The air becomes hot and tense. Worried, Irv grabs his rifle to help, but Charlie tells him not to worry, that she can handle the men. Andrew does not want his daughter to hurt anyone, but he knows they have no other choice. He tells her that if the agents try to take them, she can use her powers to defend herself. Outside, the agents approach the house. Andrew tries to talk to them and convince them to leave before something terrible happens. But Irv steps out with his rifle and yells that they are on private property and must go. The men do not listen and the tension rises. Charlie grows agitated and the temperature climbs higher and higher. Suddenly, the agents attack and manage to capture Andrew. Irv tries to defend him but gets shot. When Charlie sees her father in danger, she fills with rage. Her eyes glow, and within seconds, she unleashes a massive burst of fire that engulfs the agents. The vehicles explode, and several of them die in the flames. Andrew breaks free and runs to his daughter, begging her to calm down. Slowly, Charlie stops the fire, breathing hard and with tears in her eyes. When everything is over, Irv, wounded, tells Andrew to take his jeep and escape with the girl before more men arrive at dawn. That same night, Andrew drives without stopping until they reach a forest near the city of Knoxville. There he hides the vehicle and walks with Charlie to a house by the lake. The girl is happy to have a new place to rest. Exhausted, Andrew hopes that the shop will finally leave them alone. He plans to write a letter to the newspapers to expose what the government has done, hoping that once everyone knows the truth, they will no longer be able to hunt them down. But things get worse. Shortly after refusing to continue the experiments, Dr. Wanless is attacked in his own home by John and dies before he can warn anyone about what is coming. That night, thanks to an undercover agent in Knoxville, Captain Hollister discovers exactly where Andrew and Charlie are hiding. He also finds out that Andrew has been sending letters to newspapers revealing everything he knows about the shop. After eliminating Dr. Wanless, John goes to Hollister's office and says he will do whatever it takes to capture the girl. That same afternoon, the mailman picks up all the outgoing mail and leaves town to deliver the letters. But on the road, two men stop him and ask for help with their car. When the mailman gets out to check the engine, John attacks him and steals the letters, preventing Andrew's messages from reaching the media. Later, John and his team head to the lake house where Andrew and Charlie are hiding. John prepares a tranquilizer dart, ready to shoot the girl as soon as he gets the chance. Meanwhile, inside the house, Andrew and Charlie get ready to go to the New York Times headquarters. Andrew wants to make sure his letter has arrived, but Charlie is tired of running. She just wants to have a normal life, like any girl her age. She tells her father she does not want to use her powers to hurt anyone ever again, no matter what happens. Outside, John climbs a tree to get a better view and wait for the perfect moment to strike. When father and daughter cross the wooden bridge in front of the house, Charlie is hit with a tranquilizer dart. Andrew rushes to help her, but he is struck by another dart and collapses beside her. At that moment, several agents emerge from their hiding spots. They are all wearing special fire-resistant suits to protect themselves from the girl's power. John carries Charlie and, along with the others, takes her back to the shop. A few hours later, Andrew wakes up in an unfamiliar room. When he learns that his daughter has been captured, he becomes enraged and demands to see her. Dr. Pinchot assures him she is fine, but Andrew does not believe him. In a desperate attempt, he tries to use his powers to escape, but he is too weak and ends up being sedated and put back to bed. Meanwhile, Charlie wakes up in another room completely alone. Before long, Captain Hollister enters to speak with her. He tells her she does not need to be afraid and that he only wants to better understand her abilities. He suggests running a few tests to find out how far her powers go, but the girl refuses. She says she will not use her fire to hurt anyone ever again. Hollister decides to let her rest, hoping to convince her later. That afternoon, John disguises himself as a janitor so he can enter Charlie's room unnoticed. When he steps inside, he finds her playing video games. He tries to talk to her and earn her trust, but Charlie ignores him. She does not want to speak to anyone except her father. At the same time, Hollister interrogates Andrew and tells him he will be allowed to see his daughter only if he agrees to participate in the tests. Later, when the captain and the doctor leave the room, Andrew receives a visit from an assistant who does not really know what is going on. Dr. Pinchot had only asked him to step inside and talk to Andrew, without telling him that Andrew can control minds. Andrew tries to use his powers to influence the man, but he is far too weak, and nothing happens. Frustrated, Dr. Pinchot decides to stop focusing on Andrew and dedicate all his attention to Charlie. He orders John to keep trying to gain the girl's trust. From that moment on, John begins cleaning Charlie's room every day, even though she does not need it. Charlie starts to suspect his true intentions and becomes quieter and more reserved. That night, a powerful storm hits the facility. The wind shakes the windows, and suddenly, all the lights go out, plunging the shop into complete darkness. Terrified, John begins yelling and begs Charlie to open the door because he is afraid. Seeing him so nervous and trying desperately to get out, the girl feels moved and tries to calm him down. But with no electricity, the key card to open the door does not work. Charlie walks closer to talk to him, wanting to understand why he is so scared. John tells her that when he was in the Vietnam War, he fell into an enemy trap. That day, he was captured and thrown into a dark pit underground. He says it felt as if he had been buried alive, and ever since then he has been terrified of the dark. Hearing his story, Charlie feels sorry for him. John, in turn, begins to feel affection for the girl, knowing she is worried about her father. He then promises that he will try talking to the captain to see if he can help her reunite with Andrew. John tells her that the only way she can be free again is by doing what Captain Hollister asked of her. But Charlie is afraid of using her powers again. She remembers that the last time she released her flames, several people died, and she blames herself for it. She also fears losing control again, but she begins to consider it when John tells her that it is the only way she and her father can get out of the facility. When the power finally returns, Charlie hugs John and thanks him for staying with her. Noticing that she is falling asleep, John lays her down on her bed and feels pleased to have finally earned her trust. The next morning, Charlie agrees to take part in Dr. Pinchot's experiments. They take her to a room filled with wires, with several electrodes attached to her head. Her task is to ignite a few pieces of wood placed on a metal tray. But before the flames even appear, the temperature rises quickly and smoke fills the entire room. Within seconds, everything catches fire and explodes. Even the water tank used to control the humidity begins to boil. Seeing the girl's power, Hollister is stunned. He has never seen anything like it. He plans to use the recordings of the experiment to present his project to the government. But when he notices that his colleagues are not sharing his excitement, he becomes confused. The truth is that Charlie only agreed to the experiment because they promised she would be allowed to see her father. However, the captain never intended to let that happen. Dr. Pinchot tells Hollister that if father and daughter were to reunite, Andrew could easily convince the girl to destroy the entire facility. For that reason, he decides they must never see each other again. While the scientists discuss what to do with Charlie, the girl manages to escape from the room. Everyone panics when they discover she is wandering freely through the mansion. Hollister orders them to capture her, but no one dares to get close for fear she might burn them. Charlie runs back to her bedroom, breaks down crying, and regrets breaking her promise not to use her powers again. She locks herself inside and vows that she will never use them anymore. Shortly after, Hollister visits Andrew, who is still depressed because he cannot see his daughter. The captain gives him some medicine and asks why his powers no longer work. Andrew replies that the pills weaken him and prevent him from using them. As soon as Hollister leaves, Andrew goes into the bathroom and flushes the pills down the toilet. As the days pass, John gains more and more of Charlie's trust. He visits her every day, cleans her room, and takes her out to walk through the fields. They go horseback riding together and spend time talking. Little by little, the girl begins to trust him completely. During one of those outings, John convinces her to participate in one last experiment before seeing her father. This time, Charlie sets fire to the concrete blocks in the walls. The temperature rises so much that the metal doors and the laboratory instruments begin to melt, causing a massive explosion that leaves everyone in shock. After blowing apart a concrete wall, Charlie throws a fire blast at a tub filled with ice and manages to put out the flames. When the experiment is over and following the captain's orders, the girl begins to scream, demanding that Hollister keep his part of the deal. That same afternoon, Hollister takes a walk with Andrew through the mansion's hallways. During their conversation, he tells him that preparations are being made to send him to live in a retirement home in Hawaii. Hearing this, Andrew pretends to accept the offer and says he is excited about the trip, which is supposedly happening that same night. But while they talk, Andrew takes the opportunity to slip into Hollister's mind and orders him to tell the pilot that both he and Charlie will also be traveling on the plane. In reality, his plan is to escape with his daughter when the plane makes a stop in California. Before saying goodbye to the captain, Andrew asks him to give a note to Charlie. What he does not know is that after reading the letter, the girl will tell John everything about the escape plan. Soon after, a security guard named Mike approaches Charlie and tells her he has been ordered to take her to the stables at 8 o'clock that night. When John learns about the plan, he decides to get ahead of everyone and hides in the stables before the girl arrives with the guard. When they arrive, Charlie uses her powers to scare Mike away. She warns him that if he doesn't leave, she'll burn him alive. Terrified, the man runs off immediately. Then John calls out to Charlie from the second floor and tells her to come up. She does without suspecting what's about to happen. At that moment, Andrew appears and the girl runs to hug him. Father and daughter finally reunite, while John watches them from a distance, aiming his gun at them. But just as Charlie begins talking to her father, she realizes she's been deceived. The man she trusted, John, is the same one who captured her. Hurt and disappointed, she asks him why he lied to her. Hidden above them, John tells her he can't let them go because she poses a great danger to the world. He then points his weapon at her and orders her to come with him, or he'll shoot Andrew. Charlie obeys to protect her father. At that moment, Andrew uses his powers and mentally commands the captain to eliminate John. But when Hollister tries to carry out the order, John reacts instantly and shoots him. Suddenly, Andrew manages to get into John's mind and forces him to jump from the second floor. John falls to the ground, badly hurt, but before dying, he manages to shoot Andrew. The bullet hits him, and Charlie, horrified, watches as her father begins to bleed out. Enraged, Charlie is overwhelmed by fury. John tries to shoot her again, but she detonates the bullet in midair before it reaches her. In an instant, the man's body bursts into flames. When the guards rush toward the stables and arrive, John is already dead. Charlie runs to her father, who can barely speak. With his last strength, Andrew begs her to flee, even if she has to use her powers to destroy all their enemies. After giving her his final words, he dies in front of her. Heartbroken, Charlie says goodbye to her father just as the guards begin to close in. She swings the stable doors open and uses her powers to freeze the horses, sparing them before the place is destroyed. The girl begins walking slowly toward the exit, while all the guards who see her are filled with fear. Some try to escape, but she keeps moving forward. At that moment, she spots Dr. Pinchot escaping in a golf cart. Charlie throws a fireball that hits the vehicle directly, making it explode. The remaining guards, terrified, open fire on her, but the bullets stop before they can reach her. Instead, flames sweep across the entire area, wiping out the men. Moments later, a vehicle full of armed soldiers arrives, but Charlie barely glances at it. With a single motion, she triggers an explosion that destroys the car completely, eliminating everyone inside. After eliminating one of the agents with another fireball, Charlie sees a police helicopter approaching and destroys it midair with a massive explosion. She then heads to the mansion and, filled with rage and grief, unleashes her flames on the building until the entire place is burning. Inside, the staff of the shop tries to escape, but the fire consumes everything. As she listens to their desperate screams, Charlie begins to cry. She never wanted to hurt anyone, but she had no other choice. She knew that if she didn't do it, she would never escape or fulfill the promise she made to her father. Days later, Charlie returns to the farm where Irv and Norma live. When they see her arrive, the couple runs to hug her tightly. For the first time in a long while, Charlie feels relieved. She knows she's not alone, and that she now has a new family that cares for her and accepts her just as she is. With Irv's help, Charlie puts into motion the plan her father left her before he died. A week later, she travels to New York and arrives at the headquarters of the New York Times. There, the young girl finally has the chance to tell her entire story to the world. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know what you think about this movie.